Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be all about my favourite audiobooks that I've listened to so far this year. I am filming this after Christmas, so I really hope that you all had a really nice Christmas and that you're continuing to have a lovely holiday season. If you're not, it's fine. 2026 is just around the corner. But yeah, still have my Christmas tree up, and because I am also thinking about my kind of, best books of 2025 video, I thought I would do this one first because I've been wanting to do this video for a while and just talk about some of my favourite audiobooks that I've read this year. So I thought, let me do this first and then we'll jump into the kind of best books of 2025 in 2026. I am very, very excited to film that video because I'm just more intrigued to see kind of what I picked. I know I haven't had a lot of 5-star reads this year, so we'll see. But one of my favourite reads so far this year has been an audiobook, and I've actually listened to it 3 times. So yeah, and it's been a wonderful favourite. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about audiobooks. When it comes to audiobooks, it really is sporadic for me. One of the best books that I listened to on audio was at the beginning of this year, and this was a recommendation through a friend, and actually I think she mainly consumes books through audio. And I loved this one, and the reason I loved it was because the book is set in Ireland and the narrator was Irish. But otherwise, in terms of how I kind of go about picking audiobooks and why maybe I lean towards audio instead of either digital or physical, it's simply because most of the time I'm trying to use up those Spotify hours. I'm like, if I'm paying for it, let me use it. I think twice this year I've actually had to buy top-ups because I've been listening to something, didn't realise it was so long and that I'd kind of crossed over my threshold and didn't want to wait any longer for them. But yeah, so that's my kind of thing when it comes to audiobooks. Some books I kind of just pick up because I'm like, oh okay, they sound interesting. I actually reread 2 books this year via audio. So I had read the physical formats a couple of years ago, and then I was just like, I want to read these books again. I'm going to listen to the audiobooks. So that was really nice way to kind of reread those books. But yeah, otherwise it's just very random how I pick them, and sometimes there are books that I feel like I don't quite want to read in physical format, so I'm just like, yeah, I'll listen to the audiobook version of that. And in terms of kind of when I listen to audiobooks, it can be when I'm working. So if I'm working from home, if I'm working in the office, if I am commuting. I'm not really someone who will go to bed listening to an audiobook or anything like that. I don't use it to wind down in the evenings or anything like that. Sometimes, a lot of the time it has to be a conscious effort, but a lot of the times it will be during a commute or when I'm doing something at work that doesn't require so much focus that I can actually listen to an audiobook. So enough of that, let's dive into the audiobooks. And the first one, which has managed to take the #1 spot, I would say, because there would have been another one that took the #1 spot, but the first one I'm going to talk about is The Life That's Waiting by Brianna Wiest. This is the one that I have listened to 3 times this year. In fairness, the book is about 2.5 hours long, so it's actually not very long at all. Now, I have been wanting to read her book, The Mountain Is You, for at least 1.5 years. I did this art project thing a couple of years ago, maybe 1.5 years ago again, and someone read a quote from her and I thought, oh, sounds nice. And I looked her up and I just thought, oh God, yeah, I love these self-help books and stuff like that, but you can't always be reading them, But yeah, I've been wanting to read it all this year. I was like, this is the year I'm going to read it. This is the year. It's so funny as well because it's a book about self-sabotage. It's about the things you keep putting off, and I kept putting off reading that book. But anyway, I just happened to see it on Spotify. I saw how short it was and I was like, oh great, I listened to it. Honestly, within the first 3 chapters I was like, this book is just so me. It is the way that I like things to be talked about in terms of the world, connections, relationships, how you move forward in life. I think for me she just hit the nail on the head. And then there was a chapter, I think it was particularly chapter 6, which is talking about so I'll go into what it's like in a second, but it's particularly chapter 6 where I had to send it to a friend because I was like, I just think this is such good advice and I just don't think it's the advice you're going to get from most people. So I listened to it. I was like, I think this is fantastic. So The Life That's Waiting, I guess in its physical format, the book will begin and it kind of has these intro bits where it says, listen to this when you feel XYZ. When you're listening to the audiobook, it is listen to this when you're going through heartbreak or when you feel like you're lost, when you feel jealous, yada, yada, yada. And each chapter focuses on the topic of that thing. It's a really, really nice way to kind of break down a book, and really kind of break down the specific scenarios that people might be going through, because it does mean that you actually don't have to read the whole book if you don't want to. I listened to it in its entirety because I found it to be really, really helpful, and I just found like her thoughts and views on life and the kind of challenges and things you might be going through is just the exact same way that I think about things, and just gave me so much more context, but also perspective. And I just think she thinks about things in a really different way, not in a way that you have to kind of be like, accept like good vibes only, like none of that. There's a lot of talk in there about kind of personal responsibility, self-development, hope, heartbreak, family relationships in such a way that it's really like positive and encouraging, and really encourages you to see the bigger picture at play. And I don't want to ever confuse that with a kind of, you know, you shouldn't feel sad about certain situations that you're going through, because I think a lot of kind of self-help stuff can lean towards that, where it's a kind of like, well, this is just a test, or this is just a lesson, and like, don't feel sad about it. I don't think she does that. You know, she really manages to kind of give you the big picture, whilst also kind of, you know, really acknowledging that you can feel exactly what you're feeling. I think it's a brilliant book, which is why I listened to it 3 times. Unbelievable, like 3 times in the space of 6 months. Absolutely fantastic. I think she also narrates this audiobook. The other ones that she has on Spotify are narrated by someone else, so it was just also really nice. I feel like you're just a little bit closer to her with that. But I definitely feel like if you're someone who is going into kind of self-help work, or you're just going through any kind of situation in life, whether that is that you feel lost, you're dealing with sort of heartbreak, you're dealing with jealousy, you're dealing with like so many different things, there will be a chapter in this book for you that I think will really change your mind and kind of how you view life, how you view a lot of things. If we're thinking of the book just in terms of like why this is an audio, I mean, for me, because it's the first way I consumed it, I think I just love it in that sense. But I do like that it's read by her. That's never really a huge factor for me when people are talking about like audiobooks. I know a lot of people like it when it's like read by the author, or, you know, especially if it's like non-fiction or it's a memoir. That's not a thing for me, but I really do like that this one is read by her, because her other books on Spotify aren't. But yeah, I think for me it only is just like, oh, this is a favourite audiobook because that's the first way that I came to it. I would definitely get it in the physical format, but I actually, for me now, like listening to it is just so comforting. Like I remember I'd come to the cinema like by myself, and on the way back it was like raining. It was just like a really light rain. It was really quiet in the streets as I was walking through Glasgow, and I was just listening to her words, and you just kind of feel like the main character in a film. It's really wonderful. So I do really recommend it as an audiobook, but I'm sure the physical format is also just as great. The next book that I want to speak about is Sunburn. Oh my god, I read this at the beginning of the year and I could just not stop talking about this book to anyone that I met. This is a queer love story set in Ireland. I'm unsure of the dates because dates always pass me by. But I want to say like it's kind of the 90s, if it's not just a bit before that, maybe set in the 80s. And it is just kind of about like kind of forbidden love, but it is also about friendship, it's about desire. And I think what is fantastic about this book, right, especially, you know, as an audiobook, as a book, so well written. Like you know, we're talking about like teenagers, you know, we're reading this book from the perspective of a teenage girl as she kind of goes through school. You know, she's kind of in those kind of final last years of school, deciding what to do with her life, and then, you know, she meets this friend, and well, they've already been friends for years, and it is about their kind of pull and desire towards each other. But, you know, growing up in Ireland in a Catholic country, and what people have to say about queer relationships, incredibly fascinating. But why I love this so much as an audiobook, it is voiced by an Irish author, and it's narrator, sorry, and it's just wonderful. Like like, I mean, if you're someone who loves Irish accents like I do, you'll absolutely love it. But I think it just grounded you in the book so much, you know, like just the way certain things are said, the little lilts, it was just wonderful. But I think for me, primarily, what I loved about this book was the like kind of love story between the two girls, and the desire, and the kind of just unfairness of it all. But I thought the words were powerful, and I thought, yeah, just as an audiobook, I don't think I would have connected to this so much or liked it so much actually, if I didn't read it as an audiobook. Like I just couldn't really imagine reading it in its physical form and having that much of a connection to it, just because when the person is speaking, like you can hear it, like the longing and desire in her voice. I just don't think that's something that you're going to get through words. So then for me, like if I compare that to the first book that I spoke about, where it's like, oh, you could read it in like its physical format and I'm sure it'll be fine. With this, I'm just like, I feel like the audiobook is 100% like just elevated. You know, it elevates the words and the story so much because you hear that longing. So yeah, again, that was another 5-star read. Would 10 out of 10 recommend. Another book that I read via audio, which I wouldn't have picked up otherwise, which is why, like, I'm glad I was able to consume it by audio. And this was me very much trying to use up my Spotify hours, but it's She Didn't See It Coming. This is a thriller book, and it's so interesting because as I was kind of like trying to find out more about the book and stuff like that, I don't know why I hit a certain point where I was like, I'm intrigued by something in this book. But it's what really helped me kind of see like the different kind of like sub-genres within kind of thriller books. So this would be classed as a domestic thriller. It's about the family. It also does take place like in the home. But, you know, very much to do with the fact that it's centered around kind of people in the family being the suspects and things like that. This book is about a mother that goes missing. So we have our intro chapter where we have the mother, and then after that she goes missing, and the whole kind of story is kind of trying to unravel like what is actually happening. Is she missing? And also, like, as per all these things, she is married, she has a 2 or 3 year old child. So as per with these things, it's always like, did the husband do it? And it is, so the other characters that we have are her partner Sam, but then also her sister, her mum and dad, and then also her best friend. So obviously we go through the book and we're kind of constructing like Sam and Bryden is the name of the missing woman's life, and, you know, seeing if they were happy, if they weren't, all these sorts of things, and other kind of things that get revealed alongside that. Then we find out more about the sister, we find out about the best friend and like her parents, and then obviously there's like the little girl dealing with the trauma of like her mum going missing. I thought this book was actually like really good because I think in terms of like the side characters, there were some really interesting things explored through them, which I think was really nice, in particular dealing with kind of like people's obsession with true crime. And I thought, oh, this was an unexpected element for me to have like in this book, and I think it just added a real sense of depth to it. As an, like, what do I think of it as like an audiobook? I think again it was really nice. It's narrated by an American narrator, so you get like that experience as someone who obviously grew up in England and now lives in Scotland. When I read books, I don't imagine anyone with an American accent, but like listening to this, you really get that kind of like being placed into the scene that it should be, and hearing like those American voices and stuff like that. I do believe it is voiced by one person, but they do, like, the voices do change between the chapters because you alternate between kind of female characters and male characters. So I think that's quite good. And then, yeah, I forgot the other kind of side characters. There's two other side characters who also add a bit of dimension. If not, sometimes I felt like their role was a bit redundant. It was really to like move the story on. But as a story, I thought it came together fine. It came together well. Actually, when you realise like who done it, you're like, yeah, maybe you should have seen that coming. I think literally the chapter before is when I realised like who it was, and then they revealed it. I was like, no, that is good. I didn't see that one coming. And I just found like the life that she built for like each of the characters, especially Bryden being, you know, the person that is missing and the person that doesn't feature in the story to tell her own story. We hear about her from other people. I thought she did her justice. It wasn't just a kind of like empty shell of a woman. But yeah, sorry, in terms of it being an audiobook, I thought it worked fine as an audiobook. I gave it 3.5 stars. For me, that was kind of both the actual story and how engaging I found the story, but then also just like the narrator. I thought this book was like well paced. I thought, yeah, the narration was really good. And as a thriller, I was intrigued to see how I would find it. Like, would I still find that kind of same sense of like kind of suspense and like that build up and thinking of who did it? And I did. I really felt like actually I probably would enjoy a lot more thrillers through audio. I haven't actually since then checked out a lot of thrillers through audio, but listening to this, I was like, no, I feel like this is going to be a good way that I can start to consume those books that I perhaps don't actually want to spend my time like reading physically, but every now and then if I hear one that sounds interesting, I'm like, yeah, I would like to read that. So yeah, would recommend that one. So for me, audiobooks are definitely mainly a fiction thing, but I did listen to a non-fiction book on audio. I listened to a couple actually, but the one I'm going to talk about here is New Methods for Women, and I gave this one 3.5 stars. These are more like essay collections, so I do think actually I would benefit from having them in the physical format to revisit. So there are 49 essays in this, and you know, like I would kind of liken each chapter basically to like a blog post. So there is a kind of central theme, and I'm actually really struggling now to think of one like essay point. And it's not because I didn't think the book was good or enjoyable. But, you know, for example, the first one would be like, say something like taking care of yourself, or like being honest with yourself, or being honest with people. Maybe those are really bad examples, but you know, there's a central theme to each essay, and then she'll kind of share like, you know, the kind of steps around it, but also what she weaves in very nicely, and it works very nicely, is like her experience with that thing. She'll give you an example of how she lived this out in her life, and how like kind of what the problem was, what, you know, how this as a method was a solution, and like how she is now. And then yeah, we'll talk about like other things. So I found it to be actually quite helpful, and what I really liked about this is read by the author. For some reason, I follow her on Instagram, and I am someone who doesn't listen to audio on Instagram. So I had no idea that actually she's from the UK. I, for some reason, assumed she was American. So that was really nice, because I believe she was born in Birmingham, but maybe grew up in London, or it might be vice versa. But either way, like, it was just nice to hear like another black woman speaking with a similar accent to me, especially because I didn't expect it. So in this sense, I really did enjoy that it was read by her. And yeah, I just think it was just nice to hear the different inflections in her voice and things like that. I thought a lot of the stuff that she was talking about was things that I had read in other books, which I don't actually have a problem with. Like, you know, we're all going to have like similar content in terms of when we like kind of embark on this journey. So none of that was kind of like a reason to like, you know, not enjoy the book. But a lot of it I was like, okay, kind of like already know this stuff. I just thought it was interesting to hear from her point of view. And obviously, as she's going through these stories, she's sharing parts about her life, which is very interesting. She's someone who had a kid young and now co-parents. And I think her son is like a teenager now and things like that. So she is kind of really within the story kind of sharing her life journey as well. The reason I also wanted to listen to this is she's an incredibly successful businesswoman. I will put up the Instagram of the nails, because I didn't realise it was her that launched this nail business. It's shut now, but I remember like it was all the rage. And I was like, that's crazy. But I found out about her through something else that she was doing, and then when I read the book I saw that and I was like, absolutely no way. And now she's launched like another business, and she just seems like a very, very savvy woman. So I did enjoy this, and like I said, I gave it 3.5 stars. So the final books I'm going to talk about are the Moonflower Murders series. Now I actually don't have much to say on it, other than they are very long audiobooks, but they are very long physical books. They're about 500 pages, so nearly 20 hours of audio in one of them. I really liked these because actually, if you have watched the Moonflower Murders like TV series, which I've only watched half because I actually didn't really enjoy it, it's voiced by the same authors, characters, so that you have that nice bit of like continuity. But I really liked it for kind of just revisiting a book that is quite actually long, but that you already know the story and the plot of, and just revisiting it through audio. It's a bit like, yeah, someone reading a book to you, you know, which is, I know. But it was just a really nice way to reread a book that you've already read. So in some parts I didn't feel like I really had to like listen to them both. But I'm not going to dive into the plot of these because this video is already getting really long. But the kind of final books that I want to talk about, kind of as an honourable mention, not because I actually liked the book. Oh, I'm sorry, for the both Moonflower Murder books, I gave them 4 stars. One of them, I can't remember which one it is now because I can't see the difference between, but I'm sure one of them I actually had given 5 stars. When I re-listened to the book, I was like, actually, as good as I found this, I'm going to knock it down a star. But the book that is the kind of honourable mention, and the only reason, well, yeah, the book that's the honourable mention is So Thrilled for You. Again, this is a recommendation from a friend. I didn't really like it as much as I feel like other people have liked this book, but each to their own. One thing I will say about this is I do think the kind of narration of all the different characters was brilliant. Like, they had so many like different, they had, I guess, 4 different voice actors for the 4 different friends. And that's what I really like about audio, and how you can add that really kind of, really just elevate it by having, you know, a kind of full cast, if you will, and, you know, having all the different accents and things like that. So then you're really in the story, and I thought it was just really good. Like, just points of when they were getting angry about certain things, it was in the voices, and I just thought that aspect was brilliant. So I'm really glad that I kind of listened to it via audio. My kind of issues, I guess, with the story are just, you know, something for another day, but as a kind of like audiobook where I'm like, yes, I really love it. It's audiobooks like that I love. One of my favourite audiobooks still to this day is Lincoln in the Bardo, because of the different voices, because of the full cast. And I just think, yeah, when you have the ability to do that with audio, I think it amplifies the story so much more than anyone reading it could ever do. So yeah. But that is all for today. So thank you so much for watching this video. Wishing you a very, very wonderful new year when it comes round. And yeah, I'll catch you in another one. Bye.